and I'm the CCS Trainee Communications Working Group co-chair alongside Janspreet Randava. So I'll have the honor of co-moderating this event with Jasprit today, and I really hope that you all enjoy it. So I'm going to ask Jasprit to introduce herself as well.
Thank you so much, Anahita. As Anahita's mentioned, we are very excited to have everyone here. Thank you so much for taking the time. This is a great audience, so thank you so much. I'm a cardiology research fellow at Western University, and I'm very, very honored to be here and help moderate this session. I guess I'll pass it on to some of our panelists to now give a quick, brief introduction, and we can get started.
Sure. Zach, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Zach. I'm one of the cardiology residents at Western. I just started PGY6, I guess, a few weeks ago. My interest is in cardiac critical care and heart failure. Thank you very much to Anahita and Jazz for organizing this session, and to CCS for supporting it as well. I think it's great that there's so many interested students here tonight. It's great to see so many people online. So that's really nice that y'all showed up.
It is.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Zach. I guess we could move on to Kaylee. Is Kaylee here?
Hi. Hello, everybody. Nice to meet you all virtually. My name's Kaylee. I'm a fresh cardiology fellow. I just started this month. I'm here in Ottawa at the Heart Institute now, but I did all my previous training in Newfoundland at Memorial University. So really excited to be here to share any pearls I might have with you and take any of your questions. And yeah, it's great to see this turnout. I think this is a great event. It's certainly something that I think will be helpful for a lot of people and kind of a comfortable environment to break the ice for a lot of these questions. So looking forward to it.
Exactly. That's what we're hoping for. Thank you, Kaylee. So next I'm going to ask Ahmed to introduce himself.
Hello, everybody. I'm en route right now back to Montreal. So my name is Ahmed. I'm recently R6 in cardiology at McGill. Just wanted to give you a glimpse of a life of a cardiologist. It's very similar to life in the fast lane, and I'm literally on the fast lane right now.
Okay, be safe.
For sure.
Thank you so much. I guess next we have Karen to give an introduction.
Hey everyone, I'm Karen. I'm one of the PGY6, a cardiology fellow at Dalhousie University. I'm originally from Vancouver, so I've truly gone coast to coast. And besides going through the process myself, I've also been part of the selection committee over the last couple of years. So hopefully this will be helpful for you guys.
Amazing. That's great. Thank you so much for joining us, Karen. So next we have Ambika.
Hi, my name is Ambika. I'm one of the R6 residents at University of Toronto doing cardiology right now. And I did internal medicine at U of T as well and med school at McMaster. Thanks so much for having me. Looking forward to the session.
Thank you so much. We're very excited to have you here as well. Next on the list, we have Annie.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for inviting me to be on the panel. My name is Annie. I'm one of the PGY5 cardiology residents at Queen's in Kingston. I did my core IM in Ottawa, and I did my medical school in Ireland. So hopefully I can shed some insight on the whole process, and really happy to meet you guys.
Thank you so much, Annie. It's great that you could join us and share your experience, especially as a Canadian IMG. That would be very helpful for some of us. And next we have Tobin, if I'm also pronouncing it right.
Hi, it's Tobin. Thanks so much for having me here today, Jaspreet, Anahita, and CCS. I'm one of the PGY5 cardiology fellows at the University of Calgary, and I did my med school in internal medicine and McMaster before that.
Great. Thank you. And we want to also extend our gratitude to Carla Saman. She was also supposed to join us today, but unfortunately, because of an unforeseen personal emergency, she couldn't join us. We wish her all the best.
So I guess without further ado, we should get started. So we'll invite Zach back onto the stage and ask him a question. Welcome back, Zach.
Long time no see.
Yes. So the question we have for you is, what do you consider the most important factors in a successful CaRMS application?
Yeah, that's the $1,000,000 question, isn't it? Everyone's here to find out. Not to get too much into it, because I think some of our other panelists will probably speak to some of the details, but I think the key pillars of a successful CaRMS application are the CV, the electives experiences, so the auditions, so to speak, and then the reference letters. And I think some of the group will talk a little bit about some of those details. But I guess in the broadest sense, trying to have a set of experiences that you can use to help create a narrative around yourself as an applicant. So I think that becomes more obvious and clearer how to do that when you're more senior and your interests are clearer to you, and your purpose becomes clearer to you, clinically, academically, or otherwise. It's a bit harder when you're junior. I think I received similar advice when I was at many of your stage, and I didn't really know how best to do that, and that's okay. But if you do feel like you have a clear purpose for yourself, or a clear set of career goals that you can articulate, and importantly that you've backed up with your experiences and efforts so far, then I think that's really compelling to selection committees, because then you're not just another face or CV on the pile, but you're, this person who wants to do so and so, and they might be an excellent fit for our program because we're strong in X, Y, Z. People get really excited about the possibility of training someone or mentoring someone in something that they also, are interested in, or strong in, if that person shares their interests. So that can really help people connect a little bit more individually in the context of a competitive application process. And then I think the other key point, which I won't again belabor, but I really think the performance on electives and going on elective is one of by far the most important factors. So when people say, for instance, that, well, I don't really want to travel, or it seems like a lot of work, and I could just do an elective at my home institution. I mean, doing a single elective at the home institution can have a lot of value in demonstrating interest and meeting people in a more, and meeting them a little bit more. But it is really important to go away and meet people at different programs that you're considering, because you already have an immediate, advantage against the rest of the pile by virtue of having visited somewhere. That's the reality of how selection committees look at the applicants. And if you went somewhere and did great, well, you're in the driver's seat. So that's really important.
Oh, thank you so much. That was great, valuable advice. And I'm sure everyone will be happy to talk with you further at our networking session afterwards as well.
Come visit if you're interested in Western or critical care or heart failure, or if you just like talking to me.
Thank you so much again, Zach, for your time. The next guest we have for the panel is Kaylee. I'd like to invite you back to the stage. Welcome back.
Thank you. Hello.
Hello. So the question we have for you today is, how has coming from a program with no cardiology fellows affected your cardiology fellowship application? And if you are able to, if time permits, could you please tell us briefly about your master's?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, coming from Newfoundland, where there are no cardiology fellows, I think it really helped shape not just my application, but my experience and my expertise and abilities going into fellowship now. I think it was definitely valuable. So going through internal medicine there, I obviously was a bit nervous knowing that there was no program there. And, there's certainly some comfort, I think, knowing that your home program, who knows you well and has worked with you for 3 years, has a program. So that was a bit nerve-wracking, but I wouldn't have changed it for anything, because the nature of not having a cardiology fellowship at my internal medicine program meant that as internal medicine residents, you really get to work like fellows. A lot of the time, you get a lot of autonomy, a lot of responsibility early on, for better or worse. And if you like cardiology, that's great. So you become quite proficient with procedures. I feel like I've seen a lot of pathology, and I've seen a lot of really interesting cases that I've been able to take leadership roles with, that I might not necessarily have been able to do in a bigger center with more of a hierarchy, in terms of seeing patients, leading teams, dealing with acuity on your own. So I really think that was valuable. But more so than that, I think having that really close relationship with all the cardiology staff in Memorial in Newfoundland was really, really valuable for my application, because I got to know them so well. You work so closely directly with staff, because there's no kind of in-between review with the fellow. It's just direct working with that person. And they get to know you really well, and they really will go to bat for you in terms of reference letters and mentorship and opportunities. And of course, they've all trained at different places across the country. And so they're known there, and they have friends there, and they can recommend electives. They can recommend people to network with and to talk with for advice on your electives. And so that was really invaluable for me. In terms of my master's, so that kind of just came about. My advice, I guess, in terms of doing that is I didn't go into residency thinking, I'd love to do a master's at the same time. I'm not that much of a masochist, I promise, but it came about organically. So I just, I came up with a research question that came up clinically, and then decided to turn that into a master's. And it's been really valuable. And I think it's really shaped, it was a lot of work, of course, but really helped shape how I view research and how I view clinical trials in a patient context. So it gave me a whole new kind of outlook on research and its actual value day to day. So super valuable, a lot of work. In terms of whether or not I would recommend it, I would recommend it if you have a specific clinical question that you're passionate about. But I wouldn't just, pursue a master's for the application piece. I don't think that's necessary. But if you have something that you're passionate about and are really interested in learning more about, then absolutely. And yeah, looking forward to chatting with you all more about anything and everything.
Amazing. I'm sure everyone wants to know how you managed to balance your residency, master's, and life. I'm interested to know. Okay, so next question is for Ahmed. Thank you, Ahmed. So a lot of applicants at this time are asking for letters of recommendations. I wanted to see if you have any suggestions for who applicants should go to ask for their letters, and is there any special qualities that they should ask them to comment on in their letters?
So I like this question a lot. The reason I like it is if there's one thing an applicant does not have control over in the application, it's letters of reference. None of us had control over this, but it doesn't always have to be like this. I think if we strategize, we will be able to control it to a certain degree. Number one point in obtaining a reference letter should always start with talking to people. Talking to people who are ahead of you a year, 2 years, or 3 years, and knowing from them who are the influential people, who are the people that have a say in the application process, who are closer to the program directors or the decision makers. And the reason I say this is because you don't want to get a reference letter from an excellent doctor, but who's not really involved, they don't know that well. You really want to have a letter from people they hear from. So that's point number one. And how do you identify these people? By talking to people from years ahead of you. So they will identify the people that have a track record of writing letters to people that got accepted into cardiology residency or whatever residency you'd like to be in. So that's the first point. Then you have to put yourself in situations where you work with these people. So you identify the rotations and the timings they work at, and you put yourself in these situations. And it's not only this, there's a lot of preparation in terms of studying and trying to showcase your personality. It's not always knowledge that they look for, they look for personality. And this is what personally I prefer being mentioned in a reference letter. So I don't want someone to come and tell me that this person was very knowledgeable. A lot of people can be knowledgeable right after the 3 years of cardiology training, but I want someone that is flexible. I want this trait to be mentioned. Flexible in learning. I want to teach you, so I want them to mention how flexible you are in accepting or receiving, or adaptable you are in receiving my education, my learning, and my training, and how flexible you are with your colleagues when there is a schedule change. It's really minute things, simple things, but I really want you to be flexible and adaptable in these certain aspects, because one of your colleagues will go through a difficult time and they will need to change a call or a rotation, and I will want you to be adaptable and flexible. So that's point number one. Point number two, in terms of qualities, I want you to be resilient. There is no person on this planet that does not go through adversity. We all go through adversity, but I want you to be resilient. I will help you as a program, but I want you to know how and learn how to bounce back. You need to have these skills. So if your referee does comment on your resilience, your flexibility, your adaptability, and your dependability, that would be an excellent reference letter, in my opinion. Dependable, because there are times there's no program in the country that does not get busy. All programs will get busy, and you will have these tough nights or these tough days. And when the tough gets going, I want you to get going. So these are things I really want to see on a reference letter. So to summarize, talk to people, choose the people that have a say or are heard or trusted, who are known to write good letters. That's one thing. And the other point is, you want to make sure that there are people known that would elaborate in their discussions about you, because that's what people care about a lot. And not necessarily bigger names, not necessarily bigger researchers, not necessarily any of that. So when you speak and when you ask for the reference letter, you will get a sense from the doctor that you're working with as to whether this letter will be a good one or not. It's by the way they are giving you the feedback, or the way they will tell you, I'm going to write you a strong letter. Some people will just mention it. It will be a strong letter. So the other point is, any letter that comes your way, take it. Don't say no. Take it. Accumulate 20 letters, that's fine. Decide which ones to use afterwards. I think I went over time. I'm sorry.
No, it was very good, actually. Thank
Okay.
you so much. We really appreciate it if you can stay a little bit longer, so people can, attendees can also ask you some questions later.
I'm more than happy to be here. Yes.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So the next question is from Karen. So you mentioned that you went from coast to coast, and we wanted to ask you how applicants can optimize networking opportunities and make the most of their elective performances when they're traveling abroad or like doing outside electives.
Thanks very much for that question. Yeah, and I agree with Dr. Singer when he said the by far, I think the most important aspect of your application is your performance on elective. So that's very important. What the program really wants to know is, are you a fellow that I can trust? Are you a fellow that we enjoy working with? And are you a good fit for the program? So in terms of kind of the networking piece, I think it really starts before electives, and it really should start with your home school program. Right? For most applicants, your home school and your program is your best shot. And I say this because that's probably the school that you get to do a couple of cardiology rotations where you get to know the staff, the nurses quite well, the fellows quite well. This is your chance to build a long-term relationship whether it's through research or some other kind of initiative, whether it's teaching or advocacy. So your networking really should start with your kind of homeschool and program. You should have a good reputation at your home school and program, and get to know those people very well. And from that point on, you can expand out. A bunch of our staff probably trained at other schools, other programs, so they're a good resource to ask them, how does the program that you're trained at compare to our home program? What are the benefits, or the things that you think can be improved on? So what are good people to talk to at other programs if I'm interested? So they're a good resource. And other ways to network, I think, outside of your home program, I would say go to conferences. As an internal medicine resident, I love going to the conferences. CCC, the Canadian Cardiovascular Congress, is a great opportunity. I really like going to Heart Failure Update is another really good one. Oftentimes just outside of the kind of presentations, you might kind of run into people and staff from other schools. And oftentimes they also have formal kind of networking events as well that you can go to. So that's another great opportunity. Other kind of nationwide initiatives are good to get involved. So the CCS has a trainee committee, and there's also a Canadian Women's Heart Health Alliance. It's a great way to get to know people from other schools. So I think there are lots of opportunities to network, especially I think in this age where we have emails and Zooms and kind of events like this. So take advantage. In terms of electives, and I think, again, choose your elective sites carefully. I think most schools will have maybe anywhere from 1 to 3 elective blocks. And chances are you're going to match to a school where you have done an elective. I think that's the most likely scenario. So choose your schools carefully. And during your elective, I think your senior, your kind of cardiology fellow is really your best resource. Most of us have gone through this process. We know it's nerve-wracking, and we're really, we're your friend, and we want you to succeed. And so ask us about the program, right? What are the pros? What are the cons? Why do we choose to come here and train here? What is the unique thing about the program that I should mention about in the interview? Who I should ask for reference letters? Those are all very kind of valuable information that you can gather from your senior. And then I think on the elective, I would recommend setting up a meeting with the program director. You may or may not have the chance to work with them kind of clinically throughout your 4 weeks, but do set up a meeting with them. It's FaceTime. They get to connect your name to your face, and it's also your opportunity to show some interest and ask questions directly. So I think that's kind of my 2 cents in terms of how to maximize networking opportunities and make the most of it on your elective.
Thank you so much. That was such valuable advice. I think the underlying theme for me was to really just put yourself out there and continuously keep reaching out as much as you can. So thank you so much. I'm sure everyone's very excited to network with you later on in this session as well. So next, I would like to call Ambika back on the stage. I hope I said that right.
Yep, you said it perfectly.
Welcome back. So the question that we have for you today is, what qualities are medical programs looking for, and how can applicants demonstrate these during interviews more specifically?
So I think that the qualities medical programs are looking for the most are people who are team players and people who are easy to get along with. And I think that's way more important than your knowledge or your procedural skills or your bedside echo skills or anything like that. Like, the most important thing is just that people like working with you. Because the people who are reading the applications and interviewing you know that if they pick you, they're going to be working with you for the next 3 years. And so they want to be working with people who they enjoy being around. So I think that's really important. And I think the way that you show that in an interview is by trying to really show examples. So it's not enough to just say that you're a team player. So whenever possible, to actually give an example and weave that into your answers in the interview. So when asked to comment on your skills, try to not only state the skill, but find a specific example of when you did it and how you did it, and just weave those into your answers as much as possible, because that's how you really show that that's who you are. And it also kind of shows your personality, which I think is really important too, because people already know what you've done and what your skills are like and what your knowledge is like from other aspects of your application, like your CV and your reference letters. But really the only opportunity you have to show the kind of person you are and what your personality is like is when people are actually talking to you face to face. So I think it's important to try to make that show as much as possible. So whatever you can do to kind of show people who you are, and really highlight those aspects of your application, I think is really, really important.
Wow, thank you so much. That was great advice. I really like that you said don't just state the skills or the attributes, but really just display them through the experiences and the examples. So thank you so much. And I'm sure everyone will be excited to network with you as well. Okay, next we have Annie coming back on stage. Welcome back, Annie.
Thanks again.
Thank you so much for coming. And the question we have for you today is, how has being a IMG affected your application? And what advice do you have for other applicants seeking cardiology fellowships?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And to be honest, I'm not sure that it necessarily affected me negatively, for example. And if it did, it certainly wasn't very like in my face. I was sort of thinking about this question, and the only thing I can really think of where, as an IMG, we might be at a disadvantage is because we did medical school overseas, we, compared to some of our Canadian colleagues, might not have had that earlier opportunity to network and form relationships with cardio program directors or cardiologists or researchers. So I think perhaps that maybe we're on a bit of a back foot when we're starting our core IM here, but certainly those are all things that are not insurmountable by any means. And just echoing what a lot of the other panelists are saying, you just need to put yourself out there. You need to meet people, you need to network, go attend the conferences that maybe you didn't get to go to because you were overseas for your medical school. So it's certainly not insurmountable. And overall, in terms of advice for IMGs, I would only say that if for some reason somebody is trying to use that label against you in a negative way, flip it back on them, right? You're an IMG, you have been through so many hoops just to get back here. You've written a million board exams, and all of that shows how hardworking you are, how driven you are, how resilient you are. And those are all things that people want in a cardiology resident and in a cardiologist. And likewise, we have exposures to so many different healthcare systems, different cultures, and those are all experiences that give us skills, particularly communication skills, I find, that aren't really necessarily easily taught. So I think there's a lot of pros to being an IMG. I know we often don't feel that way when we're in the application process, but I think that you can always spin it in a very positive way if for some reason someone is making you feel lesser than.
I loved it. I loved how you said that. I'm sure there are a lot of IMGs among us as well that sometimes feel like they have some disadvantage as opposed to other Canadian graduates, but it was amazing how you put it. Thank you. So we're definitely going to be joining your table to hear more about that. So next will be Tobin. Tobin, I had the opportunity to take a look at your CV. I saw that you had tons and tons of research in your CV, and I wanted to ask you if you can share some, I don't know, suggestions to how to get involved in research for future applicants. I know it might be a little late for the ones that are applying this cycle, but future applicants.
Absolutely. So I can sort of talk about how I got into research to begin with. At the beginning of medical school, I emailed everyone on the cardiology division list on their website, and I got one response who ended up being my PI for the last 7 years. So that worked out really well, although probably shouldn't have. After I moved to Calgary, I met with the research director in Calgary who was able to provide me with a list of physicians with similar interests and have continued some of the work that I've been doing at McMaster. I think a few of the things that really help with getting involved in research is to be very selective with who you want to work with. What you should be looking for as a trainee is that the PI is very active, that they're publishing a lot, but they're also not so productive that they won't have time for you. So you're sort of looking for like a mid-career or early to mid-career advisor. And you also want someone who is very interested in the success of the people that's working with them. So if you're looking up an advisor on PubMed, things to look at is not just how many publications, but how many publications have trainees as first or second authors? Or is the PI the first author on everything? Because that's something that I've been really fortunate with, that a lot of my projects, I've gotten to have more first author, second author, whereas another PI might have put me as more like a third author, middle author. And that really makes such a big difference at our stage of our training to have those first author publications. So looking for someone who's really going to share in their success is really important. I think the other things that are really important is to try and develop a diverse skill set within research. It does make you a lot more attractive to other PIs if you're trying to start a new project or if you're moving to another institution. And that can be as simple as, just doing a few different kinds of research, like a case report, an editorial, a review, a retrospective paper. Being able to say, I've done one of a few different kinds of studies, I have that skill set, and that's something I can bring to your lab is really beneficial. Similarly, some of the more soft skills like statistics or programming, certainly you don't need a master's to become like a cardiologist, but spending a bit of time with the statistician at most universities or cardiology programs, you will have a statistician to support you with your research. So spending a little bit of extra time with them and taking the lead on the analysis of your own projects is something that can definitely take you a long way, not just as a researcher, but in terms of moving you along in your career, getting those fellowships in cardiology. Being able to list the research skills that you bring to the table are really important. And I think the last thing that I think is most important is really just to get involved in research that interests you, where you can actually take an active role. And when it came to like the interviews, I wasn't really asked questions about like the papers that I did with the highest impact factor. They wanted to know about the papers where I had the biggest role in the project, and which would often be really like the simple resident-led research project that we did for IM residency. And having even just one project where you can talk about your role in the design of the study and how you carried it out and how you wrote it up, that will really impress your interviewer, because it's clear that you took an interest in the research and that it's something that you want to take further.
Wow, thank you so much. It's always great to hear from diverse backgrounds, and you've done so much research, and it's great to be able to listen to your experiences, and it's very inspiring. So thank you so much.
Okay, Jaspreet, I think now we can invite attendees to join the networking sessions.
Sure.
So I'll let you for that.
Sounds good. So now shortly you'll be able to hop around from tables to go and meet all the different panelists and ask the specific questions that I know you've been dying to ask for right now. So just a little bit of a reminder that you can turn your mic and your camera off. If you're having any technical difficulties, feel free to reach out to us, but please do try to refresh your page first to see if it's just a quick fix. Hope you guys have a great time networking, and we're very, very excited for this session.
We're going back to the tables now.